Hello everybody, welcome back to Waffles RC. Just want to say a big thank you to everybody for the very nice things that were said in the comments. The congratulations for winning an award. Still very happy about this. And thank you all, because I build these things to show you guys what it can be done. Yes, it's for me, but it's to show you guys what you can do even in your own garage with basic tools. So I know the title of this video is the piece together your own Xmaxx, but first I wanted to show you guys the stuff that came in for the award-winning vehicle. Alright, so first and foremost, I took the steering servo out of this and corrected the steering, so this now turns at full extension now. So now I can actually turn left again when it's all drooped out. That's a good thing. Now we have a trailer. I showed you a little bit about it, but I was waiting for more stuff to come in. So, here we go. Got a toolbox. It's where the battery and the BEC live. Looks good. I think so, at least. And one thing that I have noticed, at least from the internet or television or whatever, Australians do like to have their beer when they're out overlanding and or camping or whatever. So instead of a gas bottle, we have a keg, because why not? And I couldn't really find a gas bottle, so I thought it would be funny. Who needs to cook when you have beer, right? So put the power switch, can't really see it, but put the power switch here, and the trailer has its own under chassis light, as you can see. There's supposed to be lights in here as well, which, turn it off so you can actually see. There are lights in here. Well, come to find out, I already knew this, but to find out with these, LEDs need to have a little ballast resistor. Most of them, like all of these ones, have a ballast resistor in them, or in the wire in line with them. These ones do not. They came with the kit for the truck for its regular lights, and apparently that ballast resistor is inside of the control box for them. So those do not turn on, but I will add resistors to those so that those lights will be on. And as you see, there are no wires connected to this. It is all inside here with the battery, BEC, so that way this is completely separate from the truck. That's it for the award-winning vehicle, and now the trailer with the toolbox. Did have to modify it a little bit, so I did get the toolbox and the keg from the same place, A3A Scale Products on Etsy. Remember, if you use the code WafflesRC, which I'll put right here, or that direction, whichever one, but anything from his store will be 10% off, so go check it out, see if there's anything that you like on there. This quality is really good. This was already like this. I didn't make it so that the lid opened. He made it so that the lid opened, so it can be a functional toolbox. Go check that out. But for now, let's get to the Xmaxx. Alright, let's start off with this. I don't know why we're starting off with it, because that's the whole point of this video. This is based on basically the Xmaxx 8S, so the big one. If you haven't been around these, or you're thinking about them, just a heads up, they're a lot bigger than you think. They may look, average size on the internet. They're huge, especially compared to 1/10 scale crawlers. But I shouldn't be that surprised, because this is a 5th scale. So, just a fair warning to everybody. If you're watching this video, I am not an expert on Xmaxxes. I am not an expert on bashers. I know nothing about them, and it took me a long time to try and piece one of these together, because I've never had one, I've never been around one, so I don't know what parts were actually needed until I started putting it together and realized, oh, I'm missing half of the parts. So what I'm going to do is take this whole thing apart, show you all the pieces to get it to this stage, and then put it together and hopefully drive it without it catching on fire. We'll find out. And this is what an Xmaxx looks when you explode it. All the different pieces. Did this for two reasons. One, for you. Two, I need to grease and Loctite everything that's metal bolt to metal, which is control arms, which I'll get to in a little bit. Also, the stubs for the axles, those I never Loctited, but I did all that on purpose because I knew I was taking this all apart again. Sorry about the glasses, but the glare off of the truck is perfect for lighting, not for my eyes. So for those of you who do know, Xmaxes are quite expensive. If you go and look online, they're quite expensive. I did this to try and bypass some of that cost. Not to say in any way that this is cheap. This was all still quite expensive. A few good things about doing this is I wanted the upgrade parts, so I didn't want to spend the money for a stock one to then upgrade it, just like the crawlers. Once again, I am not an expert in bashers. I know nothing about this Xmaxx. I don't even know how to program it. So we'll see how that goes. But I will say this, when it comes to when you're trying to do this, the cheapest parts out of all of this are the Traxxas, actual Traxxas plastic pieces. So like the whole chassis. This is an actual Traxxas chassis. All of these plastic pieces are a lot more affordable than you think. I'll put links to all these pieces that I'm going to go through. I'll put links down in the description and you can go and see how affordable these plastic pieces are. Now granted, these are only a part of the puzzle, so you're not going to get the whole thing for half the price or whatever magical number you think, or what I thought. The plastic pieces are the cheapest part of this whole thing. So that's why there's a lot of plastic. So the things that, from my experience here, the main things you'll need are the main chassis, the front and rear shock towers. This is the rear bulkhead. I believe that's what it's called. I will correct myself right here if I am wrong. The diff covers, front and rear, which also, and that's the other thing with this. All of this goes together. So if you're missing a piece, it's not going to go together. So like this piece somehow works, or is this the wrong one? It is. Goes back here, I believe. Yeah. Helps hold the diff in, but also holds the shock tower up. Do your research. Traxxas on their website actually has an exploded view with all the part numbers and everything. And there are factory Traxxas parts that you can get for this Xmaxx for a lot cheaper than what I spent. Like the control arms. I went with metal control arms. You can get the stock plastic ones for a lot cheaper than what I paid, which you'll see in the description. If you click on it, you'll see how much those arms are in comparison to if you find the stock ones, which I'll put a link to those as well. From what people have said, are just as good, if not better, because they allow for a little flex. I wanted metal because I'm weird. So with all this stuff together, it makes an Xmaxx. Now, the expensive parts. Your front and rear differential. This is missing the axle cup, which I took off because I realized I didn't Loctite it. Your center differential. So good luck with that. That took me forever to realize that this is a center differential, and then there's a front and rear differential. So there's three differentials. This one is just a spool, so it locks the power between the front and rear. Expensive. Now for the steering servo, you can go with the 5th scale Traxxas steering servo, which I've heard very good things about, other than like speed and not super powerful, but it works because they sell it. But they also make this little adapter plate to run a standard servo. This is a cheap servo, 70 kilograms apparently, at 7.4 volts. So that's where they get you with those. So I got the adapter and a smaller servo. It was still not super cheap, but it wasn't as expensive as the 5th scale one that bolts right into this with no issue. But you have to get the adapter plate if you're going to run any other type of servo other than the Traxxas servo, because of the way that it mounts inside of the chassis. Then you have your transmission gear. Pretty sure that's what it's called. I also went with the upgraded metal steering just because I thought, you know, metal's stronger than plastic. We'll see how true this all really is once I actually take this out and drive it. I also went with aftermarket coilovers. Don't know anything about them, just like I don't know anything about this whole thing. I've been basically teaching myself the whole time. I actually have to put oil in them. That'll be fun. There's a lot of pieces to this thing, so my recommendation would be go on to Traxxas website, and they have an exploded view. So whichever one you're trying to build, the 6S, the 8S, most of them, I think, share the same chassis other than the Traxxas Max 1/10 scale, not the Xmaxx, just the Traxxas Max. That's obviously a different chassis. But I think the 5th scales all share relatively the same chassis. I'm probably wrong. So now that I have all of this, I'm going to put it all back together. I believe I read that these differentials already have grease in them. Really don't want to take them apart, but I probably should. Yeah, I'll take them apart. Also, another thing, sorry, just realized it. If you're piecing one of these together, you are going to need an M4 bolt set, because this takes M4. Most of it is M4 bolts, so you'll need that, and a bearing kit. Most of this stuff doesn't come with bearings. Like, the differentials came with bearings, but the center diff did not come with any bearings. Neither did anything for the drive shaft or anything on the knuckles, like for the axle bearings. Came with none of that. So I went with the Fast Eddy bearing set for the Xmaxx 8S, and it's been great. You find the right one that fits where you need it. I read the reviews, they seem like a good bearing kit. No matter what, this thing's going to be beat pretty hard. So it all just depends on how well I take care of it and how long everything lasts. So I'm going to do a quick time lapse of, it won't be quick actually, I just realized it'll be quite long. I'm going to do a time lapse of putting this all back together, and then hopefully turning it on once I figure out how to wire it, because this takes 2 batteries. That's how you get 8S. So I have to figure out how to wire that, and then hopefully take it and drive it. Okay, so I just started without doing a time lapse, but heads up, if you do this adapter for the smaller servo, the 10 scale size servos, you do have to cut these ears off on both sides. On the top side here, to get the plastic pieces to clear, because if not, then they'll hit. So you have to cut these like that. So if I come across stuff like that that I've had to do, then I'll fill you in as I do it. camera overheated. So I'm trying to cool it with a fan, which is blowing hot air on it. So I don't know where that ended. This is where I'm at right now. Kind of looks like a boat. One thing I did want to mention, which was hard for me to figure out when I was piecing this thing together. These little metal tabs right here, they go inside of these gaps right here in the control arms. I didn't know that it needed them. I don't know what they're called, but there was this gap in them and I couldn't figure out why. So you need these metal tabs. They go over here and over here as well, and they tie in to all your control arms, at least the lowers. If you don't have them, then there's a gap and it's annoying, and it took me a while to figure that out. So you're going to get random updates on this thing as I put it together because that overheated and now you can't watch it. So another thing you're going to have to get when you do this whole build it yourself Xmaxx are these hinge pins. They're basically what holds the control arms to the chassis. You have to get a kit. I don't know which one I got, but it was a hinge pin kit. They make bolt ones like for up here for the top of the shocks, and they make them for the knuckles for the plastic ones as well. It just strengthens it up a little bit, but you will need hinge pins as well. It's very hard to say, and I have to limit the amount of times that this camera is on because I can't charge it because it is 97 degrees out there, so everything is overheating. Got to make this quick. I'm just trying to let you guys know what crucial things you'll need to be able to put all this together. Okay, this is where I'm at so far. Can't really go much further. I need to center the steering servo, which means I need to put power to it, but all this has to come off to put the servo horn back on it. So I can't tighten any of that up. All that back there is done. Control arms are all Loctited. Every single one of these bolts, if you get the metal ones, every single one of these bolts put Loctite on it because it's metal to metal. So like I said, I am not an expert on these, so I'm going to go away and figure out how to wire up a battery to this thing, or 2 batteries, so that way I can center the servo and start putting this all back together. I also have to put shock oil in this, or these, because there's 4 of them and I can't count. So I have to do that. Hopefully it won't be a few hours from now when I come back to talk to you again on how I did everything. Wish me luck. Okay, well, thanks to the magic of Google, I figured out how to wire this. And it's not that I'm completely incompetent, it's that I've never done it before, so I had to learn. So don't be disparaged when you have to look something up because you don't know. Or ask questions, and if they're rude to you about it, move on to the next person. Apparently the way that you do it when you're running dual batteries, so this part is for the people that haven't done this before, because I hadn't done it before and I figured it out. I have plugged it in, it didn't catch on fire. So I'm going to tell you how I figured it out. So if you already know how to do this, skip ahead a few seconds. Actually don't, that hurts the algorithm. So just bear with me for a minute, if even. Okay, so the way that you wire up this dual battery setup, you have one that plugs in normally. Positive side of the ESC goes to the positive side of the first battery. Then, at least with this Hobbywing ESC, it came with another wire that goes from the negative of this battery to the positive of this battery. Now, I know that doesn't make sense, but it works. So then from there, it goes from the negative side of this battery to your negative wire to your ESC. And there, now you can run dual batteries. Now I know that this is an 8S, but I only have 3S batteries. So it will be a 6S for now. I have to order more batteries. I tested it, so everything's plugged in. I got the steering horn hooked up put all the steering all back together, Loctited everything because most of this is metal to metal. And for the receiver and transmitter, I went with the Dumbo RC receiver and transmitter. I did that because Kevin Talbot, who I watch on YouTube, because even though I'm on YouTube, I watch YouTube. That's how it all starts. But anyhow, he has always said that the Dumbo RC is a very good, responsive, affordable transmitter, and this one came with a receiver. I think it was like 60 bucks for the receiver and the transmitter. It's not the most sophisticated thing on the planet, but this receiver is going to be just for this Xmaxx. I don't have any accessories on it, no lights yet. There will be eventually. So we'll see how it does. If it works for somebody who has over 2 million subscribers, I think it'll work for me at 6,000 subscribers. If it works, it works. So now I have to do final touches like put the tires on. Some of my axle pins have fallen out because the spacing for the axle shaft and the stub axle needs the wheels on it, and they've kind of fallen out. Need to put the front bumper on, tie up all this wiring to keep it out of the way of anything moving, and then put the body on. I'm excited about that. Oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I have to do the shocks still, so I'll do that and then all that other stuff. And there it is, all complete. So I won't lie and say that I haven't been testing it, because I have. I want to make sure that it doesn't, immediately break. Remember, it's pieced together. It's not straight out of the box from Traxxas where you can just hammer on it. So far, pretty good. Having a little issue with the steering, but time will tell, I guess. So now, the most important part, the body. So I went with the Proline Ford F-150 Raptor body, as you can most likely tell. I liked it better than the stock Traxxas body. I realized also that I have not put the front bumper back on, so I'm going to do that. Then we'll take it out in the street and see what happens. Because I haven't had it in the street. I've just been, playing around in here testing it. Alright, first drive out of the garage. That's the speed I'm used to. Let's see what she's got. I've only done half throttle so far. This thing is nuts. This thing is so dumb. I love it. A new way to mow my lawn, even though I don't have a lawn. Something came apart. That'll do it every time. Well, this is a lot of fun. Let that Loctite sit up. I just played with it a little bit more in the street. There we go. So now, next what we're going to do is take it to a bike park, a dirt bike park that's out here. I'll call my nephew, see which one to go to. I'm really going to have fun with this thing. So, I'll see you in a second. need to learn how to drive this thing. Every time I turn this camera on, I crash it. There's something missing here. It's front wheel drive now. A little dusty. My chair's been sitting in the sun for the last like 2 hours while I've been doing yard work. So this is what I'll be doing, standing. That is it for this week. I had so much fun with that thing. Did break the axle shaft. From what I've seen on the internets and the YouTubes, it's kind of a common thing that these things break. That's why they call them bashers. You bash them. I didn't go full on because I'm learning how to drive it. And I'm sure there are a few of you who are watching this video that are wondering, well, why do you have to learn how to drive it? Well, I've never driven a basher before. It's been probably 20 years since I've driven something that's even relatively fast, let alone that fast. It's honestly incredible how much technique is actually involved, because you can watch videos of people driving these things and it just looks so easy, but learning when to let off the throttle in a jump, when to give it throttle in the middle of a jump, when to hit the brakes, it's just hard. But still had a lot of fun. Apparently that bike park that I went to, there's a bunch of people that go out there with these things. So if you're watching, let me know when you guys go out there, because now I have one and I would like to learn more on how to drive that thing. So I'm not scared to admit that I need to learn how to drive it. It's a little different than a rock crawler. If you're part of that group that goes out to that bike park, if you notice it, hit me up, let me know. I'd love to meet up with you guys and just have a good time and learn how to drive that thing a little bit better. Also, I only had it, like I said earlier, on 6S. I don't have 4S batteries to make it 8S. That will be happening. And there are a lot smarter people out there on how to drive these things, how to build these things, how to upgrade them. I did it to what my budget allowed. Kevin Talbot is a good person to watch if you're looking into these bashers. He has a lot of energy, which I don't have that kind of energy. but I've gotten used to it, and he's kind of the reason why I wanted one of these. And they're just to have fun. And he shows that. He shows that they're meant to have fun. They're meant to break. Like, you can't just baby them, which I learned that today. Want to really learn how to drive them, go check him out. Also, I'm having issues with this thing trying to get it to turn left. It'll turn right super well, but it won't go left. I had the steering servo was adjusted, or I centered it. I centered the wheels, but the steering saver, or whatever that thing is called, it won't let it turn left, but it'll go right super sharp. So if anybody knows, leave it in the comments. Teach me something, because I don't know what I did wrong. For now, that is it from Waffles RC. We now have a basher. I'm going to keep going out, keep practicing. Once I get better, I'll do another video, which there's tons of videos out there on how to drive these things, but not on my channel. So I'll give it a shot. I also wanted to do some onboard footage, but I couldn't find my suction cup, and it broke by the time I figured something out. So next time we'll get some onboard footage when I actually learn how to drive it better too. Also want to say a big thank you to the little man on the bike that we raced. Good job. I had so much fun driving out there with you. It looked like you were having fun too. So thank you, little man. Waffles RC, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week when we start whatever else comes up. I have some ideas. Okay, I have one idea that I'm going to start, and you'll see it next week.